Hello everyone, I'm Heather and I'm back for a really quick video. I promise that this one is quick because it's actually ridiculously late at night, and the only reason I'm still awake is because I made way more mulled wine than I meant to and I refuse to leave it. Like, what am I, just wasteful? Like, we didn't have the war so that we can waste things, okay? But I was like, now that I'm awake and I'm reading, I'm drinking some wine, I have a couple of tags that I need to catch up on, so I will just do that in this time. I'm looking at a ridiculously bright light. It's like being at the dentist's office, so I hope that that is going to fix the problem of it being nighttime and me not having a very good camera. So this tag has been on my list for a bit. I'm just not getting to it, but I think it's gonna be a really good one. It's called Dilemmas of a Booknerd TAG, and I was tagged in this by Sarah from Hardcover Hearts. Her tag was amazing. It was really good. I'll link it down below. Also, I'll try to find the original of this. I think I know which one it is, and I will put it down there if I can find it as well. But anyway, thank you Sarah for tagging me in this. I love doing tags. Dilemmas of a Booknerd tag. I haven't really looked at this. I am woefully unprepared to take on this tag. I'm really sorry. Like, at least try to look at the questions and have a think about it for a bit. But I did not plan to do this now, so I'm sorry. Anyway, first question. Storage. How do you store and organize your books? I don't have that many books, to be totally honest with you. If you watch my channel, you know that I have like a strange Marie Kondo related compulsion to like make my house as lean as possible. Like, I know I'm surrounded by like loads of crap right now, so it sort of goes against what I'm saying. This is literally the whole of my Christmas decorations. Like, I've put them all in this one place so it looks like I have Christmas. But basically, everything in my house earns its keep, pretty much, or maybe I just think it's pretty. But basically, most of the things that I have in the house, like, it has a place, it goes in that place. If it doesn't fit in that place, it goes away. So my book selection situation is quite low. So I don't think I have as big of a problem as quite a lot of bookworms do, or book nerds, in that they have to constantly find space for their books. Like, I mean, I don't have enough space for my books, but it's good because it keeps me within my parameters of not having a lot of books. So as soon as I can no longer fit books in like the one shelf that I have, I will show you that shelf, but like in a minute, because I would have to get up and I don't really want to do that. I'll do it later. I'll show you the shelf later. Okay, as promised, here is my bookshelf. So this part up, that's just all my husband's horrible crap. So these three shelves are mine. Stuff is behind these various piles, which is a situation. And then also there's this situation happening where some of these ones are mine. But mainly that's my husband's stuff. Also, weirdly, behind the TV, don't ask. Woo! Ew. Back here, yeah, some of this stuff is mine. Yeah, the joy of cooking. Got that from my mom when I got married 10 years ago. These books here about sewing. Yeah, those are mine. But yeah, then the absolute rest of it is my husband's crap. I've got a shelf and a half, basically. But I also have my wardrobe upstairs, which is where overflow goes. I'm definitely not walking all the way upstairs, but I think I've done it in another video and I'll link it below. I used to have a lot more books, I think, but I basically emigrated 10 years ago. I moved to the UK from the US and I could only move with about 3 duffel bags worth of stuff. So quite a lot of my books I had to stay with my parents, and actually that's something. Yeah, I think we definitely shouldn't talk about all of the books I have still living with my parents. Right, question number 2 is tracking. How do you keep track of what books you've read and what books you own? So, like I said, I don't have an amazing amount of books, so I don't really need to keep track of the books that I own. Like, if I can't see them on my shelf and a half, and I can't see them in like the wardrobe bit that I have, then, you know, I don't have that book. And it's easy to remember what books I have as well because it's so small, the space. But as far as keeping track of the ones that I've read, that is really much more important, because I think quite a lot of people, once they read it, they keep it then, and then they see it, and then they remember that they've read it. Whereas I usually either give it back to the library, or I give it to a charity shop, or I like give it to like a friend or whatever. Then I definitely need to sort of like write it down and keep a list that I've read it, or else I'll completely forget that I read that and maybe pick it up at the library again, like, oh, this looks good, which I've done before. But the main thing that I do now is the book. It's all of the books that I've read in the last like 13 years, 12 years or so, since 2008, which was the year I graduated from university, and I started like reading a normal amount again, you know? So the years that I was in university, I was reading maybe like, you know, I don't know, one book a month really of my own choosing. And the rest of it was just crap that I had to do for university. So my reading level was stunted for that time. The first thing I did was basically to read all of the Harry Potters again. That was 2008. But basically all of the books that I've read since then are in this book. I do also try to keep like a spreadsheet for the year, which sort of tracks like my plans for what I plan to read for the year. But it's not as good as the book. Like, I don't keep track as well with that. It's more sort of, you know, knocking off things as I read them than keeping a record of what I've read. Whereas this is the gold guy. Number 3. Borrow. Do you lend your books out? And the answer to that is pretty much no, because there's very few books I want back. Like, I'm always like trying to fob them off on my friends so that they'll maybe read them and we can maybe talk about it. But mainly I just don't want it in my house, and I'd rather it potentially go on to someone who could talk about it with me than just to the charity shop down the road where it just will be gone. So I do a lot of like forced gifting of books. Like, you should read this book. Like, oh no, it's okay. No, you should read this book. But you know, other than that, like, no, I don't really give them out. Number 4 is buying. How do you buy or acquire books? So, mainly, I like to get them secondhand. So, I like the library, but I feel like it's a lot of pressure on me when books just sort of come up at random. Like, the books that I want are never there, because I read popular books, so I have to reserve them. And then basically I'm just at the library's mercy, you know? They can just pop up and go, here's your book, you have 20 days, you know? And I'm just like, oh, but I'm reading all these other books, oh, I don't have time. Like, I didn't want to read it now, I wanted to read it for Christmas. Like, it's like really stressful for me to have to read the books they say in the time frame they say, you know? So I don't do that a whole hell of a lot. I try to do it more, you know. I'm currently on a personal quest to make peace with the library, because obviously it's better. It's like less sort of like consumerism and like blah blah blah. It's just better, and it's good to support the local library because it's democratic. Like, I understand. I also love a library. I love to go there. I love to be around people who like the library as well. Anyway, so I'm trying to be more about library books, but mainly I get my kicks off of charity shop book racks, where I can go in there, do like a hunt and seek, like I'm a, you know, sort of old school hunter-gatherer, and then get the books that I want for super cheap. And then I can just like give them back. And they're like, oh, we've seen this book 3 times before. Thank you. We make money on it every time or whatever. Like, that's how I want it to be. I rarely get books from new bookstores, even though I like to go in there and browse and like get my thrills from like being in a new bookstore. I can rarely afford to actually buy books there because they're so expensive, and then I end up just giving them away anyway, so it's like I rented it for 10 quid, which is crazy. Number 5 is, how do you respond to how do you read so much and other similar comments? I think mainly my super awkward responses to questions like this consist of me trying to tell them stories that convey properly like the lameness of my life, and how incredibly dedicated my life is to reading books. So like, I don't know, me like trying to tell a story like, okay, so you remember that time when you went away for the weekend and you said that you went to so-and-so restaurant and it was amazing, and then you went out with your friends drinking, and then you went to the roller coaster thing, and then you went on a boat, and you went whale watching, and then you went to the cinema, and then I'll be like, okay, so my holiday was incredibly similar to that, except for all of those things, replace it with reading. That's how I read so much. I'm not interested in going outside. Like whales. Reading all the time, everywhere, every day. Thus, you know, why do I need more in my life than that? So number 6 is next book. How do you choose your next book? So I'm like a bit of a mood reader. You know, I'd say majority of the time I just look at, like, I have all of my TBR things on Pinterest, you know, so every time I want to read a book I plug it into Pinterest so that I can then browse through the covers of that like board on Pinterest. So most of the time I'll sort of just be like, okay, well that's done, and then I'll like browse through like I also have like a Pinterest board for all of the books that are in my house, you know, so I'll just go bloop, 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 you know, like, oh, which one do I want next? Or if I feel like none of those work, I'll be like, oh, you know, browse through the TBR one and be like, oh, maybe I can find this at a library, or maybe I can, you know, afford to do it at like a bookstore or find it at a charity shop or whatever. But I do feel like every once in a while, or like quite often maybe, there's just too many. There's too many books that I could be reading that I want to read that would fit my mood, so I need to have like a bit of direction. So I've given myself like projects throughout the year, and I do it every year, and it's like getting to the time where I can set up my new projects. So I've like got my spreadsheet going, like, okay, I have described like the full extent of this nerdiness with like showing of the spreadsheets and everything in a tag I did last week, or like earlier this week or something. I will link that one below so you can see like the intensity of the situation. But I did like a spreadsheet with like my various projects. So like one of my projects is the Great American Read. So I'm working on reading through all 100 of what PBS has said is America's favorite 100 books. But also I do like a project for Pop Sugar, like the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge, whatever. It's like 50 or 52 books or something like that, with each have like a prompt. Then you pick a book that fits that prompt, and then you do like sort of bookstagram it, and then hashtag the Pop Sugar thing, and then find out all the other people that are reading that book or that whatever book they've picked for that prompt. So as I'm like trying to figure out what book I want to read next, I can sort of do a bit of mood reading, but I can also do it sort of based on sort of the next book in the project or whatever that I have. So it gives me like a bit of direction in like a world full of amazing books that's sometimes overwhelming. Click, 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 click. Number 7, travel. How do you pick which book to bring on vacation with you? Yes, okay, so I tend to do themed books for where I'm going, or what I'm going to do while I'm there, or what the trip is for, blah, blah. So upcoming, I'm going to Hawaii, and I have chosen 3 Hawaii-based books for that trip. When I went on a road trip with some mates to Louisiana, we went like from Seattle to New Orleans, sort of like down around. We went through Texas and everything, so I read loads of like state related books. I read this one that was super good about Texas. I had no idea that like Texas could actually be kind of cool, you know. Number 8 is annotate. Do you write in or mark up your books in any way? Basically, this is quite complicated. I think I would do, because I like the look of it, and it's interesting to sort of go back through and sort of read what you were thinking when you read it first of all, especially if you were like quite young, and then 10 years later, blah blah blah. But like basically, ain't nobody got time for that. Like, I'm just trying to live my life. Go to work, come home, read books. Like, I don't have time to like be making really detailed notes about my thoughts while I'm reading a book. Like, I hardly have time to bathe, okay? Because I tend to give the books away after, I wouldn't be able to really go back through 10 years later and sort of see what I was thinking. Like, somebody else would do that and be like, who was this weird girl who thought that this sock reminded her of her grandfather? You know, like, just because I know that my notes wouldn't be like clever and like amazing insights into it. It'd just be like, ha ha, I read a meme about this once, you know. Also, I think I would eventually get into the mindset of like, oh, I've done it for this amount, so I should do it for the rest, but even though I didn't want to. Then it'd be less like reading and more like work. And like, who needs more work, you know? Number 9, new or backlist. Which do you prefer? So I think mainly, honestly, new. I'm really into reading articles and like lists and stuff about the newest books coming out and which ones are sort of related to new issues in the news and like various social issues and blah blah blah. Like, I think I'm not so much into ones that are older, but I'm trying to change that. Like, I did a tag based on something that Sian and Bert on PaSTOry Time, their channel, they tagged me in ages ago about like the best books you've never heard of or whatever, but I didn't really have any of those books. Their tag of the thing was really, really good, and it was like loads of books that had really low ratings on Goodreads, but which were really good books. And I thought, why is it that I'm trapped into this hole of like reading like new release popular stuff all the time? Like, I need to go searching a bit better for things that are out there. So I'm trying to change that a bit and like explore more stuff on the backlist. But you know, it's hard. Okay, last one. Number 10, sequels. Do you read books as they're released, or do you wait for the entire series? As released, pronto, okay? The number of times I've gone to a bookstore at midnight demanding to have a book right now, you know, is a lot, okay? I got all of the Harry Potter books that way, I think from number 3 onward. I've never been to the bookstore at midnight for an Outlander book, but I have been there when they've opened. Like, knock, 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 it says you open at 8. 2 minutes after 8 you need to open so I can get my book. Also other ones, like weird ones you didn't even think of, like ones I'm sort of embarrassed to admit, Dan Brown ones. when those ones come out, I'm like, I need to go to the bookstore today because I've ordered a Dan Brown book like 3 months in advance and I've got to go pick it up, you know? Like, the idea of waiting till all of them are out in order to read just one of them sounds excruciating. Sort of going to the bookstore all the time and seeing them there and hearing people talk about them and just going, no, Heather, don't do it. You have to wait. You have to wait 7 years for all of them to come out before you can read them. No, that's crazy talk. Also, one that's coming out, I think maybe next year, hopefully next year, hopefully, is the very last Outlander book. Okay, the first Outlander book came out in like 1990. Like, I'm not gonna wait 30 years for an entire series to come out so that I can read it. That's just crazy talk. Okay, that is the end. I've finally gotten through it and I've done a hell of a lot of rambling and I'm really sorry, but I have basically finished my wine, so that's really good. Now I just have these like really weird like orange slice things that always look super gross at the end. No, it's weird. It's weird, I can't do it. If you want to do this tag and you haven't done it yet, you should definitely do it because I love watching other people do this one. If you have any comments for me, please let me know. If you have sort of similar things that you do or like really different things. So if you have a recipe for mulled wine, I prefer personally those like big like Nuremberg bottles of glue vine from Lidl every year. I get about 8,000 of them because they're the best kind. I was born in Nuremberg. It's like my right. But like loads of people make their own, don't they? They get like a red wine and they get like cinnamon and like spices and stuff and they like make their own. So if you have a recipe for me for mulled wine, that would be really, really awesome. I will give that a go this Christmas. Okay. Goodbye everyone. Goodbye.